as an additional step towards a more diversified and less dependent economy on its main traditional resources. The first edition of the Gabonese National Tourism Meetings will take place from 9th to 13th of July under the ministry in charge of this sector with high multiform and multidimensional potential. Found guilty for acts committed while he was the chief of the Congolese Patriots Militias Union in the east of the country from 2002 to 2003. The former Congolese military leader, nicknamed Terminator, has been convicted of war crimes for atrocities such as murder, rape, and conscripting child soldiers. Abdelkader Ben Salah will have to extend his interim as Algerian president, appointed by both chambers of parliament following the resignation of Abdelaziz Bouteflika. His mission was to organize a new presidential election within 90 days. But the date of this election has been postponed, and this July 9th marks the official end of his interim term. That's all for our top stories today. Stay tuned for more details in this newscast. Gabon is organizing the first edition of its national tourism meetings to be held from 9th to 13th July under the ministry in charge of tourism. This unique event in Gabon focuses on the synergy of all operators involved in the development of tourism, as the country's natural assets are available and only need to be more widely popularized and valued effectively. These meetings are dedicated to the validation of the national strategy of tourism development, an essential tool for the development and promotion of the sector. In order to take an active part in these meetings, traders, hotel businesses, restaurants, and all other tourism professionals. Over a period of 5 days, the participants, divided into workshops, will work on the following themes: governance and the legal framework, infrastructure, development and land, tourism sector financing, the provision and promotion of the destination Gabon, and the training policy for the various trades in the sector. At the end of this work, the main expected results will have to be a validated national tourism strategy, a validated tourism information system, ownership of new regulatory text by the sector, the presentation of the detailed tourist offer of the destination Gabon, the setting up of a tourism platform, to mention a few. A feared former general of the Congolese army, Tangada, 45 years old, was convicted of 13 war crimes and 5 crimes against humanity, for which he pleaded not guilty in 2015. According to the statement of Judge Robert Fremer, the chamber considers Bosco Tangada guilty of murder, intentionally directing attacks against civilians, rape, sexual slavery, persecution, and looting as war crimes and crimes against humanity. Nicknamed Terminator, Tangada is found guilty of sponsoring the rape of women and girls, including a 9-year-old girl, the judge said at the hearing, who did not hand down a sentence but will be handed down in a future hearing, he said. During the trial, which began in September 2015, the International Criminal Court drew up an appalling picture of the alleged abuses committed under Tangada's orders, such as executions with machetes. According to NGOs, more than 60,000 people have lost their lives since the outbreak in 1999 of bloody violence in Ituri, a very unstable and mineral-rich region. Bosco Tangada played a central role in the planning of operations of the Union of Congolese Patriots and his armed wing, the Patriotic Forces for the Liberation of Congo, hammered out the accusation in August during the final phase of his trial. Bosco Tangada is one of 5 Congolese warlords to have been brought before the court, founded in 2002 to try the worst atrocities committed in the world. However, the prosecutor has suffered a series of setbacks in recent years, with the acquittal of several suspects. Some African countries also criticized the International Criminal Court for targeting mainly African suspects. The current political situation in Algeria, both unexpected and unprecedented, was not provided by the state legislation. The constitution stipulates that the president of the Nations Council shall act as president of the republic for 90 days. Provisionally appointed as head of state by the 2 chambers of the Algerian parliament 1 week after the resignation of Abdelaziz Bouteflika, Abdelkader Ben Salah has until 4th of April, the date initially chosen for the organization of new presidential elections in that country. But due to the lack of popular support, this date could not be maintained, the current chief executive being considered as a symbol of Bouteflika's system. According to the constitution, Abdelkader Ben Salah can no longer claim the status of head of state from July 9th at midnight. But to remedy this situation, the Constitutional Council has extended the interim of the current head of state until the holding of the presidential elections. A decision criticized by some lawyers who even call it an act of force. Some voices are already rising and are questioning the legality of the decisions that will be taken starting on July 9th by Abdelkader Ben Salah and all the other dismemberments of the state, while wondering if, by wanting at all costs to avoid the constitutional vacuum, the new authorities would not have plunged the country into anti-constitutionality. African leaders on Sunday officially launched the operational phase of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement in Niamey, capital of Niger. The launch occurred at the 12th Extraordinary Summit of the African Union's heads of state and government. The free trade area plays a big role in working out of the 84,000-kilometer boundaries that we inherited from our colonial past, which means it ensures the full African integration instead of eliminating the boundaries, noted Mahamadou Issoufou, the president of Niger. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said, "We are now walking on the right track towards a bright future." The launch of the free trade area opens a new window for development and progress instead of economic stagnation and conflicts. On Sunday, Africa's largest economy, Nigeria and Benin, joined the list of signatories of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement signed on March 21st last year in Kigali, Rwanda. Eritrea is the only member of the African Union that has not yet signed the historic agreement. It came into force on May 30th after the deposit of the required minimum 22 instruments of ratification by AU member states of the AU Commission. The pact calls for a single continental market for goods and services with free movement of business, persons, and investment, paving the way for faster establishment of customs union. Once fully operational, the free trade agreement is projected to boost the level of intra-Africa trade by more than 52% by the year 2022, according to the UN Economic Commission for Africa. Heavy monsoon rains in Bangladesh flooded the Cox's Bazar camp, home to more than 900,000 Rohingyas refugees. They also destroyed some 273 shelters and injured 11 people. The huge refugee camp has for 5 days been hit by continuous rains, and it is not over yet. More heavy rains are expected throughout next week.
So UNICEF, along with its implementing partners, have already started estimating the damages in all 34 camps, and it has already started establishing the communication mechanisms within the wider humanitarian community to directly respond to the incidents of the flooding and the landslides in the refugee camps.
Refugee volunteers trained by United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and its partners have worked hard to help families in need. In some cases, this involved rescuing refugees from the shelters destroyed by 26 reported landslides. Over 2,000 people were displaced either because their shelters were badly damaged or as a precautionary measure, and emergency supply were distributed to help rebuild, repair, and reinforce damaged shelters. The 2019 Women's Football World Cup, which ended on Sunday 7th with a victory by the Americans, aroused passion for enthusiasm in the hearts of these many young girls who always had a dream of becoming professional footballers. Stars like Wendy Renard, Amandine Henry of the French women's team, Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe, the Brazilian Marta, who holds the record for goals scored with 6 World Player titles, or Gailen Ganamuit of Cameroon. These little girls know that it is not just a sports discipline but a real profession by which physical commitment is erased to the benefit of this admiration from all over the world. The tears of defeat and joy of victory shed during this competition bear witness to this. But social recognition remains a reality. This way of playing combined with a concern for collective play and fair play reflects the relationship these players have with this sport and the way they relate and experience it. As a reminder, bringing together the world's Best Women's Team. The Women's Cup is played every 4 years, 1 year after the Men's World Championship. In addition to the final grail, 4 other awards are given individually at the end of the competition. The Golden Shoe for the best scorer, the Golden Balloon for the best player, the Golden Glove for the best goalkeeper, the FIFA Fair Play Trophy for the team that shows the best sportsmanship and behavior. As an additional step towards a more diversified and less dependent economy on its main traditional resources, the first edition of the Gabonese National Tourism Meetings will take place from 9th to 13th of July under the ministry in charge of this sector with high multiform and multidimensional potential. Found guilty for acts committed while he was the chief of the Congolese Patriots Militias Union in the east of the country from 2002 to 2003. The former Congolese military leader, nicknamed Terminator, has been convicted of war crimes for atrocities such as murder, rape, and conscripting child soldiers. Abdelkader Ben Salah will have to extend his interim as Algerian president, appointed by both chambers of parliament following the resignation of Abdelaziz Bouteflika. His mission was to organize a new presidential election within 90 days. But the date of this election has been postponed, and this July 9th marks the official end of his interim term. That's the end of our newscast of the day, but keep watching Gabon 24 for further news.